everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today I'm going to be telling you about the 19 books I read between February and March. One of them was a DNF, but I'm counting it because I suffered through enough of it. So let's get into the first book I read in February. I finished a very popular book, and that is Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I'm gonna say Backman because I listened to an audiobook by him recently, and that's how the narrator pronounced his last name. I ended up rating this book 4 stars. It was slow for me at first, but then I was definitely invested in the characters and the storyline. I'm sure you know what it's about, but if you don't, it is about a small hockey town called Beartown, and everyone's life revolves around hockey. However, it is not just about hockey, because if it was, I would not have read it. I promise you that. I don't care about sports. It is so much more than hockey. You get to follow these characters through everything. It is a really heavy book, but Fredrik Backman does a great job of talking about these really tough topics in a lighter way. When I finished it, I knew I wanted to start the next book right away, and I will talk about that in this video. So the next book I read was The Crash by Frida McFadden. And listen, I love my girl Frida. I love a good thriller. This was not a good thriller. I'm sorry, not to me. Most important part of this video is these are all my opinions, so you're allowed to think I'm wrong, okay? I love The Housemaid when I read it, but it's definitely not my favorite by her. I think I like The Inmate more. I loved The Teacher. I really enjoyed The Boyfriend, which is her last book that came out before The Crash, but this one didn't work for me. I felt like there wasn't much of a story to tell, and the plot twist at the end wasn't shocking to me. I rated The Crash 2 stars. I'm definitely gonna read whatever she comes out with next, because I have only rated 2 of her books pretty low. I think it was The Coworker I didn't like, and then The Crash. So I've liked more of her books than I have not liked. Her ratio is good, okay? My ratio of liking her books is still good. Then I read Wait For It by Mariana Zapata for a reading vlog. I love watching Heather here on BookTube, and my girl Heather is constantly raving about this author. So I picked up Heather's favorite book by her, Wait For It, and there is a reading vlog that goes more in depth about my review here. I didn't like this book. I didn't. Another book that did not work for me. I also rated this book 2 stars. It's a slow burn romance, and I don't have a problem with slow burn. I just don't know if I really appreciated the writing in this one. And there were a few things that were so odd that happened in this book that I talk about in my reading blog. Very small things, but they just pissed me off a little bit, okay? Overall, not the worst book I've ever read. I don't know if I'll pick up another book by Mariana Zapata anytime soon, but I'm willing to give her a second chance, for sure, for sure. And then Ali Hazelwood's newest release came out, and I read Deep End. And you know what, guys? I am glad I read this the second it came out, because after seeing everybody's reviews, I think my opinion would be different, okay? Because that just shows you how influential BookTok, BookTube, and other people's opinions are to influencing your own. And what I mean by that is I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. It is spicier than her other romance books, but it worked for me. The plot, the characters, the romance. I mean, are there a few things that aren't perfect? Probably, but it just gave me a 5-star feeling, and I really loved it. I thought it was super sweet, even though it is pretty steamy. There were still some really wholesome moments, and I loved Lucas. What other people have been saying about this book is that the side character in here gets between the 2 main characters so much that they couldn't even focus on the 2 main characters. And looking back, you know, I do agree, but I chose to ignore that for the sake of the plot and moving along, so that way the 2 main characters could get together. And I'm glad I didn't see other people's reviews before I read it, because maybe I would have noticed it more. So this is your reminder to read books when they come out. And no matter what anybody says, if you want to read a book, do not let somebody's negative review of a book stop you from reading it. I started Us Against You, which is the second book in the Beartown series, and I wasn't loving it. I actually started it right away when I finished Beartown, but I'm talking about it a few books later because it took me a while to finish it. So I picked it up and then I put it down, and I was kind of in a book slump because I really loved Deep End and I didn't really feel like reading Us Against You, but I knew that I wanted to continue the series eventually and I didn't know what else to read, so I did something crazy and I listened to Deep End as an audiobook because I had a hold from the Libby app and it was ready. So I read Deep End twice this month, technically, and the audiobook was really good too. I definitely recommend reading it over listening to the audiobook because some of those scenes, if you know, you know, can be a little bit cringy to hear about on the audiobook. But I loved Lucas's accent. I don't know, I just like those characters a lot. I love Allie Hazelwood. So then I finally did finish Us Against You. I ended up switching over from the physical book to the audiobook just to get through it. And guys, I suddenly just realized halfway through the book that I didn't care anymore, which is horrible of me to say because I really did enjoy the first book in the series. However, I pushed through, I finished listening to it as an audiobook, and I rated it 2 stars. Just didn't work for me. So I don't think I will be continuing the series. Honestly, it was just super repetitive. Don't hate me. Now we're getting into the books I read for my 24-hour readathon. Go watch that video after this one. I picked up Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. This is the 3rd book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. And sadly, this was my least favorite of them. I was really expecting to like this one because it follows one of my favorite characters because he's super grumpy. But again, this one was just like an average read for me. I gave it 3 stars. I think my favorite in the series has to be Done and Dusted. I do really like this author's writing. Her books are pretty short, but they have everything you need to like check off a good romance book. So I'm definitely gonna read the next book in the series. This one was just like an okay read. I would still recommend it. Nothing to write home about. Then I listened to the audiobook of Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry, and I enjoyed it. Is it my favorite memoir I've ever read? No. Did I learn a lot, and was it interesting yet heartbreaking to learn his life story? Yes. I've really been enjoying a lot of memoirs this year. Then I listened to the audiobook of A Man Called Uva by Frederick Backman for my 24-hour readathon. At this point, I was becoming delusional because I only slept for a few hours and I wasn't paying attention to this audiobook as much as I should have or could have. So I ended up not rating this one. And at this point, I think I was just kind of wearing myself out with this author's work because all of his books feel super similar. And I think it's just time for me to take a break from his writing because don't get me wrong, his writing is amazing. Like, he can write. Frederick can write a book. It's just not the most entertaining. I think his books are more so teaching you life lessons and are just wholesome reads, more so than entertainment. And I like to be entertained. Nothing against him. We'll still read his work in the future. Then I read Big Fan by Alexandra Romanoff. It's a short story on Kindle Unlimited. It's about a girl that ends up dating her childhood celebrity crush. It's giving Harry Styles fan fiction. It's giving the movie Starstruck. And I really enjoyed it. 3 stars. But again, I don't even know if I remember the characters' names. In the moment, it was fun though. And now we're getting to another 5-star read. And that is Shark Heart by Emily Habeck. The writing is so beautiful, lyrical. There's a deeper meaning behind everything. I have a reading vlog out for this, so go watch that if you want to hear more about it. The synopsis of this book is that Ren and Lewis are in their first year of marriage when Lewis gets the diagnosis that he is turning into a great white shark and there's nothing he can do about it. In this world, magical realism exists, and that is pretty common. Like, people change into animals over time. I was kind of intrigued to see how the book handled that, and it's treated as normal in this world. It is a love story and I so recommend, but don't think the book's gonna end happy. Then I read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is the same author as Eat, Pray, Love. And I like this book better than Eat, Pray, Love. So if you're gonna read a book by her, read this one. It is a self-help book, but I definitely did take away a few things from it. I didn't rate it, but it was okay, you know. And here comes my DNF, Torment by Dylan Page. It is part 1 of a duet. And honestly, I just went into this book thinking it was a dark romance, and it's not really that. I don't really know because I didn't finish it. I got to about 60% and I was like, do not care. Decided I don't care, DNF. I'm sorry. I don't know what happens in this book, and I don't really care. Then I read First Time Caller by B.K. Borson, my first book by this author, and I thought it was really sweet. I gave this book 4 stars. Definitely recommend. It started off really strong for me and then it slowed down. I really loved both of the characters in this book. I think they deserved each other, and I could see those 2 main characters being together forever. What were their names? Aiden and Lucy? Aiden and Lucy. They're still together if they were real. Okay? Recommend that one for sure. Then I listened to the audiobook of The Woman in the Window. Didn't like this one. 2 stars. It was a thriller. That's all I have to say. And then I picked up Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers because this book has been sitting on my bookshelf for 3+ years and I wanted to read it. It was time for me to read it or unhaul it, and I enjoyed it. This is my first book by this author and it is Christian fiction. I really did enjoy the story. It's just like I was saying about Frederick Backman's work. This isn't a book I would pick up to be fully entertained, but I did like the message. So do with that what you will. Is it even fair of me to rate this book if I knew it wasn't gonna be for me going into it? Probably not. And it was just a pretty long book. I get why though, okay, I get why. And then I read another one of my favorites, and that is Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This is a romance with the accidental pregnancy trope and also friends to lovers. Need I say more? I just noticed that the light's messed up here too now. Whatever. Loved the 2 main characters in this. A lot of good quotes that I highlighted in here. And I want to read this author's new release so bad, but it's not available at any of my local bookstores yet. I'm just running out of steam, honestly. I was giving such in-depth reviews at the beginning, and then now I'm like, it was good, it was bad. I gave this book 4.5 stars, and honestly I'm debating if I should just change it to 5 stars because I had such a good time. There were just a few things that didn't make sense, I guess, so that's why it didn't give me the 5-star feeling, but I could totally see myself just going back and be like, you know what? Nothing really pissed me off, 5 stars. Wow, what a way to rate books, Maddie. Then I listened to a YA mystery audiobook by Chanel Desamores. It's called Needy Little Things, and I gave it 3 stars. It is about Soraya, who jumps into action when her friend Deja goes missing because Soraya is gifted with some sense of magical realism, and she's able to sense intentions around people or what they need. So she uses that to try to find her friend. And the plot twist, I did not see coming. And honestly, the cliffhanger, the end of this book, I was so invested in it because there is another plot line in this book that's talked about that I honestly thought it was going to be explored in this book, but it's not. And that's because the cliffhanger hinted to there being a 2nd book in the series. And I really liked the audiobook narrator, so definitely recommend this one as an audiobook. And then I read Just Last Night by Faria McFarlane, and honestly my Goodreads review right here just sums up my feelings with this book. But I'll keep talking just because why not. Really loved the first 30% of this book, was so invested, and then I suddenly just decided I didn't really care. It talks about grief beautifully in this book though. I really appreciated that. Honestly, at no point did I know where this book was going. And I don't know if that was the intention or not, but it just didn't work for me. And at the end of the book, because I did finish it, even though I didn't really feel like it, I still didn't even know what was going on. So maybe that was just me though, because I lost interest. I did not rate this book because I felt like it wasn't fair for me to do that because I was kind of getting mad at it. Okay, hopefully I didn't miss anything. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe down below. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of April, and I would so appreciate it if you subscribed and stuck around. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it as well. And all of my other social media, my TikTok, my Goodreads, my Bookstagram will be linked down below. See you guys next time.
Oh, 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 oh.